Hello everyone and welcome back to Unboxing Theories. I missed you guys, so I really wanted to get a video up. This is going to be an unscripted video. As you may know, my scripted theory videos are kind of, my usual thing, but I kind of wanted to just get something up, so I wanted to just have a conversation, talk about the characterization of Ivan. I've done this before with the characterization of Jahan, but that was a scripted video. This is going to be unscripted, so if it sounds a little more rambly, a little more chaotic, then that would be why. I hope you guys won't mind. I just kind of wanted to get something out there and also just talk about my favorite boy, Ivan. So I also wanted to mention that I know Kingdom is going to be coming out with a new song. I don't know when, but I know they're going to be coming out with a new song pretty soon that I think is called The Last Flower or something similar to that. I will be doing a first impressions video on that. I don't know if this song is meant to be part of the canon or if it's just a song for Kingmakers. Whatever it is, I will be doing a first impressions video on that, so please look forward to that. Otherwise, I guess I'll just dive right in with this. So with the characterization of Jahan, I talked about how Jahan was, you can watch it yourself, please do, but I talked briefly about how Jahan has this characterization that he's like this guardian type figure for all of the other kings, and you see that pretty much throughout every single music video. But for Ivan, I think his characterization is so unique because we see him one way and then it changes after Black Crown because of events that happen. Now, if you watch my Black Crown theory video, then you know why, but I will go into that briefly here. So Ivan is one of my favorite characters. Now, I'm not talking about the actual, I'm not talking about Yusung, the person. I'm talking about Ivan, the character in the story. He has such a unique characterization, and I really love that. I always think that you kind of need... Well, I don't want to call him a villain. I don't. But you need somebody that kind of goes against the status quo of the other kings. Because the other kings have this vibe that even though, and I will do different characterization videos for them, even though there can be moments where the other kings are perhaps a bit reckless or dangerous or, don't seem to have, maybe they're being corrupted by the shadows or what have you. There are definitely moments of that for the other kings, but I think with Ivan, it's much more prevalent, and I love that. Who doesn't love that? So basically, let's go right back to Excalibur. So in Excalibur, we're introduced to Ivan as this magical figure. He looks like a wizard. He's got himself a wizard staff. He's wearing all white. He comes across as a very pure figure, just very full of light and perhaps kind, but not to be taken lightly. That is for sure. He doesn't have a ton of solo parts aside from him with the staff and using the magic, but that's okay. When he's in the group choreography, he has center a couple of times. He's very strong in his center, and it's very, you can tell that he is powerful. He's not to be taken lightly. And of course, he does have a sword. We see all of the kings with swords, and Ivan is one of them as well. So he's very competent at taking care of himself if need be. But pretty much all we get to know from Excalibur is that he is capable of magic, and that is something you have to keep in mind. I think to a degree they're all capable of magic, but Ivan's is definitely more obvious. So in Karma, we see Ivan kind of sorrowful in this one, right? The scenes that we see with him, and if you guys watched my Karma theory, please do if you haven't, but my whole theory with that is that all of the kings were being hidden there for a time. Most of what happens in Karma happens to Chiyu, not so much the other kings. They are just present there because they are being hidden away from perhaps the shadows or something else, if you'd like to theorize something else. But it's interesting to me that in a few instances, there with the other kings, like we see Mujin doing things, we see Jahan doing things, and when we see Ivan, he is often, he has that backdrop of it looks like a very pretty wall with a couple of windows, and the spotlight is on him, and he often bows his head like he's sad or like something bad has happened. So I always thought that was interesting that he has this more, we see this more gentle, sorrowful side from Ivan in Karma. And I was always really interested about that. We don't see a lot, again, with him throughout. We don't see a lot of other story beats or character beats for him. But again, the main focus was Chew and Chew's, his decision-making problems, I guess. If you want to hear more about my thoughts about Karma, please check out the Karma theory video, if I haven't said that already. But moving on to Black Crown. Now, that Karma is the last time we see Fate Ivan as as Ivan, right? So my belief, and I've said this in the Black Crown theory video, is that Excalibur and Karma Ivan are both Fate Ivan. So, and especially you can see this with Excalibur, because when we see Fate Ivan all in white in Black Crown, we see that he is, again, all in white, has the light hair, and this is extremely similar to how he looks in Excalibur. So for me, that is complete confirmation that the two Ivans we saw before, or the Ivans in Karma and Excalibur, were both Fate Ivan, okay? And then when we go through Black Crown, that is when obviously Chaos Ivan comes and takes over, because we know how it ends. It ends with Chaos Ivan destroying Fate Ivan. And I, again, check out the video on this so you can see all of my reasons why that is true. But it's interesting how we see the differences between the two. We see Fate Ivan being very fearful, but also he's ready to take business into his own hands. He might be afraid of the Black Crown, but I think he also has this belief that if he doesn't take hold of it and keep it, then it's going to fall into the wrong hands. I think he has pure intentions, but they're just wrong. And then, of course, we have Chaos Ivan, who is willing to do literally anything and destroy literally anyone to get what he wants. And indeed, that is what happens. And then, from that point on, from Black Crown through Ascension and Long Live the King, it is Chaos Ivan. And this is when the villain behavior sets in, okay? Now, prior to that, Ivan, I think, was working with the kings and not a problem. You know, he wasn't going to do anything to invite the shadows in, as it were. Although I guess he had the capabilities of doing that since he did go after the Black Crown. But Chaos Ivan, now having slipped on in and now is working with the kings, and I kind of go back and forth on whether they know that or not. I mean, you would assume that they do, right? Or you would assume that it's tough, because you think, okay, well, all of the Fate crew, all of the Fate kings were destroyed. So doesn't that mean that all of the Chaos kings are alive now? And it's like, no. For me, that's a no, because, it's like, it doesn't make sense, because their characterizations don't change going forward. You still see Dan acting like Dan did before. You still see Arthur acting like Arthur did before. Their characterizations don't change, but Ivan's do. Now follow me here. So I think there just has to, all I'm saying is I think there just has to be a semblance of, okay, we don't know how all these pieces fit together, but we're trying, we're trying. And if you have a different interpretation, that's totally fine. These are my interpretations. But so in Ascension, we see just, typical interesting things, right? We know that in Ascension there is a fight coming, and he has to stand up for his kingdom. They are condemning him. They are rebelling against him. All of this stuff. His people are rebelling against him, all this stuff. And the kings are at his side for the most part. But interestingly enough, when Dan is doing story scenes, for the most part, he is alone, which is really sad. But Ivan, we see Ivan, he seems to be writing notes. He seems to be, or doing calligraphy. I'm assuming he's writing notes. And he seems very intent on doing that. We see him in center, and he's very bold, very strong, Not unsurprising for Ivan. We've seen him do the bold choreography before. But honestly, when we got to see Song of Dan, that brought a different kind of vibe for me. You know what I'm saying? So we see the same scenes, a lot of the same scenes, but we see the scene with Ivan writing a note. Again, doing the calligraphy. Hey all, this is me like quite a few days later. For whatever reason, this didn't record all of what I said. Once it got to Ascension, it, I guess, shut off, or something happened to my voice, and I kind of, because it's unscripted, I don't really remember all of what I said about Ascension and Long Live the King, but I'm going to try to summarize, also try to kind of add some context to the stuff I said before. Being unscripted means that sometimes I don't really say everything correctly, or I just kind of am a little awkward with how I talk about things, so I do apologize. So, talking about Ascension and talking about Ivan's character in Ascension, because Ascension is the first, well, Ascension and Promise, because technically we see him in Promise too. That's the first time we see Chaos Ivan outside of his, outside of Black Crown, right? Up until then, like I said, it had been Fate Ivan, now we are in Chaos Ivan era. And so basically what I mean by that is we see, for me, when I watched it, it made me think that a lot of his little subtle touches that he put in there, there's something just a little more sinister about Ivan now in his character that we didn't see before. Obviously, he's being controlled by the Black Crown. We know that. And whatever shadow creature is in control of that is controlling him now. And I talk about briefly, and I talk about this in the Promise and Ascension theory video, how he seems to be writing letters, and he seems to be kind of, something is sinister about it. Something is a little sneaky about it. He's got this smirk on his face, and we see that in the Promise music video. And of course, I have a theory about that. Please check out the theory video if you want to know. I don't want to get into all of that, but I just think that there's something sneaky about Ivan in this, and we do see that going forward, even in Long Live the King. So I'm going to shift into Long Live the King now, and just mention how, really, for me, Ivan has this more attitude of being a little bit coy and a little bit sneaky. And of course, I mean, we have Juan. I had a whole section where I talked about Juan, and unfortunately that disappeared. But I have a whole section where I talked about Juan and how his introduction, literally he has a villain introduction, like in his character video, when we learned that he was the King of Storms. He literally comes in a storm through a black cloud. He appears to have ill intentions. I won't say that that's exactly what's going on here, but I think that whatever he's up to no good, and I love that, by the way. And I think that he is kind of going to be using or working alongside Ivan, because Ivan is already corrupted by shadows. So in Long Live the King, we finally get to see that interaction, which is great. And I kind of love seeing a duo. I'm all about that. But even in solo parts where Ivan is by himself, he seems just a little coy, a little like he's holding something close to the vest, like he's not showing all of his cards. And of course, there's all that gossiping and whispering and stuff like that. And I just think that that is a poignant character point for Ivan going forward, for Chaos Ivan going forward, because he is a little more sneaky. He's dangerous. He could literally attack somebody and probably win, because way to go. I mean, he showed his strength of will there in chapter 3. But I think we're going to see more of this coy, sneaky, maybe up to no good Ivan going forward, and I think Juan is going to be alongside him, which I'm really looking forward to see, because I think that the story does need villains. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that they are straight up the enemy of the other members of the other kings and kingdom. Obviously not. There's going to be working together, but I think that they're going to antagonize the story a little bit, and it wouldn't be fun without some villains anyway, so we need some of that. I don't know what else I was going to say beyond that. Unfortunately, I don't know why it was lost, but I just wanted to kind of finish off there with my thoughts on Ivan's character. And also to note, something that I just love to think and talk about is how in Black Crown, and this is kind of a side note, but in Black Crown we see a lot of, it looks like crows. I would call them crows. Big black birds. And they're usually only around Fate Ivan, which is really interesting because usually crows are kind of like a harbinger of death, like it's a bad sign. You know what I'm saying? In some literature and some film and stuff like that, usually they're used as a sign of something bad that's going to happen or death. So I thought that was a really interesting touch that Fate Ivan was surrounded by them while Chaos Ivan wasn't, kind of depicting what was going to happen in the end. And I kind of love that. I hope we get more of that kind of stuff because I love those subtle details. Even if, I mean, the crows were very obviously there, but it was still a subtle detail that maybe, you know, not everyone picked up on. I don't know. But I love it. And I love corvids. They're my favorite type of bird. So I'm like, yes. Fun facts about me. But anyway, I think that's it. Since I lost half of this video, I am just going to call it there. I hope you guys still enjoy it, even though I messed up. And I hope you enjoy these thoughts about Ivan and his character. I think he's such an interesting person. Interesting character. Yusung is a different person. Remember, I'm talking about the character of Ivan. And I think it'll be interesting to see how his characterizations grow as time goes on, especially going into Mugen's era. Oh my gosh, I think it's going to be so dark and spooky, and I just can't wait. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and I can't wait to post another video soon. Have a good one.